What's the first thing you do when you arrive on location? If you're like most filmmakers, you probably unpack your gear, set your camera on a tripod, and start setting up lights and audio. And before you even realize it, the camera is sitting 5 or 6 feet off the ground, right at eye level. But here's the thing, that's exactly how everybody else sees the world. And if you want your cinematography to stand out, you have to break that habit and show your audience a new perspective. Camera angles aren't just about where you put the camera, they're about how you guide your viewers' experience, how you make them feel. In this video, we're exploring how something as simple as lowering or raising your camera can be the difference between a shot that feels flat and one that feels cinematic, intentional, and emotionally engaging. It's a small shift in perspective, but it completely transforms how your audience connects with the story. Let's dive right in. In filmmaking, especially in the world of corporate videos or advertising, you're often working with everyday locations, objects, or situations like offices, coffee shop, people walking, or people working or talking. And the quickest way to lose your viewers' interest is to show them something they already know, from the exact same perspective that they see in real life. That's why one of the most effective ways to make your shot more visually interesting and your storytelling more engaging is to shift the perspective. Lower the camera, raise it, get on the ground, shoot from a corner, frame through a doorway, or behind foreground elements. Even a subtle change in height can make a familiar scene feel brand new. And when you show your audience something they've seen 100 times before, but from a fresh angle, you don't just hold their attention, you immerse them. And this was a lesson that took me a long time to learn. Early in my career, I freelanced for major national news and sports networks. Well, every show, every setup followed the same formula, camera at eye level. The entire broadcast world is built on that standard, because the goal is to show the event exactly as it is, with minimal emotional influence. And for the news, that makes sense. But as I transitioned into more creative commercial work, I realized I had developed some bad habits of always shooting from the same perspective. I had to break my first instinct and force myself to lower the camera, to raise it, or to align it with the action. Today, I find myself gravitating towards lower angle, not dramatically low, but just enough to shift how the viewers experience the scene. Now take this shot for example. The camera isn't at my eye level, it's at theirs. It's grounded, relatable. You feel like you're lying in the grass beside them, part of the moment. If this had been shot from 5 or 6 feet up, that connection would be lost. The camera would be pointing towards the ground, flattening the image. But by lowering it, we gain emotional proximity and visual depth, allowing the background to stretch out behind the students, giving the shot space to breathe. Or this low-angle shot of a basketball team huddled around their coach. It's not shot from the sideline, it's from inside the circle, from the player's perspective. The low angle naturally draws focus to the coach, and it also reveals the surrounding gym environment. These kinds of choices may be subtle, but they make all the difference. They don't just record what's happening, they shape how it feels. And it all starts by breaking the habit of placing your camera where it's convenient, and instead placing it where it will have the most emotional impact. Let's take a look at 2 shots from the same project, and they powerfully reflect the story of growing thriving tomato plants, 6, 7, or even 8 feet tall, in the heart of the desert using minimal water. The first shot, captured from a high angle, looks down on the professor walking through towering rows of tomato plants. It emphasizes scale, framing him as the small figure surrounded by the lush, almost improbable landscape. The second shot takes us in close, down at ground level, eye to eye with the tomatoes. Here, the emotion shifts to intimacy and wonder. We see not just the scale, but the texture, the color, the life in each plant. It's no longer just about scientific achievement, it's about connection. Together, these 2 perspectives tell the full story. The high angle shows us the impossible, and the low angle makes it real. Now take this shot from a conference room. The first angle is from up high, almost overhead. You see the entire table, the people gathered. It's a moment of context, a way to invite the viewers to analyze before they engage. Viewers may feel slightly removed, as if they're looking down at a system or a process, and that's the point. The accompanying voiceover says, quote, "We take a 30,000-foot view of your financial situation." And this shot literally mirrors that idea, pulling back to give perspective. But once that context is set, we move the camera lower. Now we're at the table height, close to the faces, in the conversation. The emotional tone shifts, and it's no longer about analysis, it's about involvement. The viewers aren't just observing, they're now sitting at the table, and that shift in angle transforms the entire emotional read. Now for this conference room shot, I placed the camera on the table, creating a strong visual axis with the leader at the far end of the table. The symmetrical arrangement of the team members on both sides draws the viewer's focus towards the leader. But what truly elevates this shot is the use of the table's reflection, adding depth and subtle elegance. The reflection on the table doesn't just add visual interest, it implies transparency, a subtle visual metaphor for mutual understanding and trust within the team. By placing the camera so low, you create a feeling of being part of the conversation without flattening the perspective. It's immersive, but still formal, intimate, but professional. Now contrast the intimacy of ground-level shot with this dramatic aerial view. The camera is positioned high above, looking straight down at the building from a near vertical angle. People on the street become tiny specks of motion, almost abstract, while the building's bold signage dominates the frame. And that's the point. This isn't just about showing what the building looks like, it's about showing the scale of the project. From this angle, the signage designed and installed by the company behind the project feels monumental. It's not just part of the building, it defines it. And this is where angles really matter, even with drones. I often say drones aren't just an altitude tool, they're a camera movement tool. Too often, I see drone shots hovering about 100 feet in the air, with the camera tilted at 45 degrees. And sure, it's a nice view, everything looks pretty from above. But if you really want to grab attention and shape the viewer's experience, change the perspective. Take this top-down shot of a golf course, for example. It's not just pretty, it's unexpected. The bunkers become abstract shapes, the fairways form graphic lines, and you're seeing design and forms that would be completely lost from a lower or more traditional angle. These are the kinds of decisions that elevate your cinematography. Will your clients or even the viewers consciously notice all the emotional cues and subtle meaning behind your angle choices? Definitely not. But they'll feel it. They'll know that the shots are working, that the film feels intentional, well-crafted, and true to who they are. So whether you're flying a drone, rolling on a slider, or simply hand-holding your camera, ask yourself, what's the most emotionally impactful angle to tell this part of the story? Because that choice silently answers questions your audience may never ask out loud. Am I a participant or just an observer? Should I feel inspired, vulnerable, or empowered? Am I being brought into the moment or held at a distance? Those answers define how people connect with your work. Now, creative angles alone aren't enough. Without intentional composition, your shot can fall flat, failing to capture your audience attention. It's a marriage of both angles and composition that creates truly cinematic images. Take this shot of three professionals walking through a bright, modern corridor. The low camera angle does more than add drama. It shifts the viewer's experience. Positioned close to the ground, the frame creates a strong sense of movement and purpose. It pulls us into the moment, as if we're just a couple steps ahead. But it's the composition that completes the message. The symmetrical framing of the corridor with the clean architectural lines, soft light, and centered subjects guides the viewer's eyes with precision. The space becomes a visual funnel, focusing attention on the trio as they move confidently forward. The result is subtle but powerful, a sense of clarity, professionalism, and forward momentum. These people don't just look like they know where they're going. The combination of angle and composition make you feel it. It's a perfect example of how camera height and framing work in harmony. Now consider this group shot. They form a loose semicircle around a plant in the center, with just enough space to suggest openness while maintaining intimacy. The composition uses balance and negative space to imply thoughtful dialogue and collaboration. It feels natural, not overly staged, but every element is purposeful. Then we move to the close-up, and the camera is still placed at the seated level, but now the composition changes dramatically. Our subject is framed prominently in the right third of the image using the rule of thirds, with another subject blurred in the background and a plant on the left helping add depth between the two people. That angle keeps us grounded in the environment while the composition puts the viewers in the emotional position of someone quietly observing the conversation, creating a sense of reflection and empathy. In every case, it's not the angle or the composition alone that creates the connection. It's the two working together. Regardless of what you're filming, these tools shape what the audience feels, how close they feel to the subject, and what they notice first. Cinematic storytelling isn't just about where to put the camera, it's about what that placement means in the context of the frame around it. So as you design your shot, think of angle and composition not as separate choices, but as one unified act of storytelling. Because when they work together, that's when your visual truly speaks. Now, if there's one thing to take away from this video, it's this. Stop defaulting to eye level. It's a habit that limits your storytelling and one worth breaking. Great cinematography isn't just about what looks good, it's about what your audience feels. Use angles to evoke emotion and pair them with intentional composition that guides the eye and shapes meaning. Frame each shot like you're crafting an experience, not just recording a scene. As Werner Herzog famously said, filmmakers shouldn't be flies on the wall. We're filmmakers, creators. That means every angle, every cut, every composition is a choice. We're not just documenting, we're intentionally shaping how our audience experiences the story. So the next time you're setting up a shot, ask yourself, what emotion am I trying to create? What perspective haven't they seen yet? And above all, experiment. Be intentional. Push past old habits. Because the difference between a forgettable image and a cinematic moment often comes down to where you place the camera and why. Happy filming.